All right, this is Johnny Palmer, wild preacher, pastor of Calvary Baptist Church, Wassee, Arkansas. Man, my computer's been giving me fits. Maybe we got it working again. Who knows? Anyway, we continue on our study. Praise God. Last century, Lord Kelvin, a physicist and president of Britain's prestigious Royal Society, stated this: radio has no future. He also contended that, quote, heavier than air flying machines are impossible, and that, quote, X-rays will prove to be a hoax. About the same time, a British parliamentary committee dismissed Thomas Edison's incandescent lamp as, quote, unworthy of the attention of the practical or scientific men. 1889, the director of the United States Patent Office urged President William McKinley to close down the office because, quote, everything that can be invented has been invented. Well, actually, man loves new things, and we laugh at people who say there's nothing new under the sun. But, kind of reminded me of, remember Paul addressed those at Mars Hill, and this is Acts 17:21. It says, now when the Athenians and the strangers there used to spend their time in nothing other than telling and hearing new things. Sounds like fun, I guess. Anyway, Solomon kind of throws a monkey wrench in all this because he makes a very bold assertion that there is nothing new under the sun. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? And so we come to, we'll call this the vanity of life, is seen in that there's nothing new in the whole of history. Okay? And let me just, we're in Ecclesiastes chapter 1, going to look at, Lord willing, verses 9 through 11. And I like just reading this out of the Message Bible. I always thought that was kind of a cool little translation. Actually, it's a paraphrase, but he said this: what was will be again. What happened will happen again. There's nothing new on this earth. Year after year, it's the same old thing. Does someone call out, hey, this is new? Don't get too excited. It's the same old story. Nobody remembers what happened yesterday, and the things that will happen tomorrow, nobody will remember them either. Don't count on being remembered. All right. So let's just look at this thing here. First of all, life is continuous of what has been. Notice the present is a repeat of the past. Verse 9, that which has been is that which will be. So he's saying that the present is merely a repeat of the past. Okay? Kipling said this: the crafts that we call modern, the crimes that we call new, John Bunyan had them typed and filed in 1692. J. Vernon McGee said this: people think we've come up with something new when we have manufactured a new gadget. I remember what a novelty the telephone was. He said in West Texas, we were on the party line, and when the telephone would ring, you could hear a dozen receivers being taken off the hook. He said that was the best way to make a public announcement in those days. He said, well, you say maybe television is new, and how can it be said there's nothing new under the sun? He said, well, let me illustrate this. My grandfather courted my grandmother on an old horsehair sofa in Mississippi. I think we still got one of those. But anyway, he proposed to her there. She accepted, and they were married. My dad courted my mother on a train, and they traveled by horse and buggy to Tyler, Texas, where they were married. He said, I proposed to my wife down in Texas as we were sitting in a car. My little grandson may propose to his wife in an airplane or maybe in a space capsule. You may ask, isn't that new? Well, not really. The feeling that my granddad had when he proposed and was accepted is the same feeling I had, and I don't think my little grandson will feel any different. There is really nothing new under the sun. The environment may change, and there may be new gadgets around, but there's really nothing new under the sun, okay? Man stays the same, only the stage setting may vary a bit from age to age. It's said that the atom bomb is new, but the atom bomb has been around for a long time. Actually, the atom is older than man, although man did not know it existed during all that time. All man has accomplished is to make a little atom a very difficult neighbor. The noisy human should have let sleeping dogs lie, but we probed around. Perhaps you're asking, well, isn't the computer new? Don't get me on that one, folks. This computer here, I don't take it out and take a gun to it. But anyway, he said, not really. God created us with computer brains and electric nervous systems. A mechanical computer brings to man no deep and abiding satisfaction. I'd amen that. Man has learned that none of these gadgets contribute anything really new to him. Kind of reminds me of the beaver who told the rabbit as they stared up at the immense wall of Hoover Dam. He said, no, I didn't actually build it myself, but it was based on an idea of mine. Adrian Rogers noted this, really, in spite of man's inventions, his so-called progress is just the cycle. We've just invented new ways to be mean and new ways to be wicked. We can get there faster, but we still don't know where we're going. He said history is like a broken phonograph record. It just keeps repeating itself. The answer is not in history. Secondly, notice the present will be repeated in the future. He says that which has been done is that which will be. So everything we're doing today basically is going to be repeated in the future, okay? And therefore, in the grand scheme of things, we're irrelevant. Just another clog in the continual repeated cycle. Everybody's going to be replaced or retired, and at a moment's notice. You never know. I plan on preaching until the Lord yanks me out of here in the rapture or something like that, but you never know. I remember Billy Graham said he wasn't going to retire, but he had to. So who knows? During the contract negotiations years ago between David Letterman and the CBS, the possibility of Letterman signing on with ABC to replace Ted Koppel's Nightline was widely publicized. Well, some suggested that the Ted Koppel's news program was no longer relevant. Ted Koppel made his feelings known regarding the situation. In a Washington Post, he said this, "It is at best inappropriate and at worst malicious to describe what my colleagues and I are doing as lacking relevance." One ABC staffer was quoted by saying the hurtful part of it is being told you're not relevant anymore. Well, the truth is, whatever you're doing, someone else will be doing the same thing in the not-too-distant future. And such an aimless existence leads to despair. To think that everything we're doing has been done before and everything we're doing will be done again kind of kills the significance of what we're doing, okay? Following the last words spoken by famous individuals, I've got a book that gives you kind of deathbed quotes and this kind of jazz. I always found it fascinating. Louis B. Mayer, he's a film producer, said, "Nothing matters, nothing matters." That was his last words. Winston Churchill said his last words, "I'm bored with it all." Lady Nancy Astor, her last words were, "Am I dying or is this my birthday?" Huey Long, okay, he was a governor and senator from Louisiana. Last words were, "Don't let me die. I've got so much to do." Apparently not. George Eastman. He left a suicide note. He said, "My work is done. Why wait?" Kind of all this reminded me of the movie Pinocchio. It's about an Italian woodcarver who created a boy puppet named Pinocchio. And apparently a fairy, remember that, magically gives the puppet life. And Geppetto, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, is startled, obviously, by this puppet coming to life. And the first conversation the old woodcarver has when he meets Pinocchio for the first time leads to a difficult question from the puppet turned real live boy. He looks at Pinocchio and asks, "Who are you?" "Well, you should know," Pinocchio replies. "You gave me this name," as he struggles to say the boy's name. Still shocked by what happened, Pinocchio shouts out, "Pinocchio!" Geppetto asks, No, this can't be." The old woodcarver is overwhelmed. He feels Pinocchio's arm and face to see if it's real, a real live boy. Tears well up in his eyes. He says, "Man, you're alive. Do you understand? You're alive." And Pinocchio happily repeats the verdict, "I'm alive." Then a pensive look comes over his face, and he says, "What do you mean I'm alive?" And the woodcarver says, "What does it mean?" "Well, unless I'm going mad, and unless this is just a dream, it means you have a life to live." Pinocchio persists, "And what do you have a life for?" Well, silence falls on, and the woodcarver concludes, "I'll have to think about that." Truth is, if you leave God out of the picture, I know you're tired of hearing that, you don't have a satisfactory answer to that question, okay? Well, thirdly, life is consistent with what has been. Look at verse 9b. It says, "So there's nothing new under the sun. Is there anything which one might say, 'See this, it's new'? Already it has existed from ages which were before us." Now, of course, people might object. Was it not new, say, putting a man on the moon? Well, think about it. What was new about it? Man wasn't new. The moon wasn't new, okay? Making the discoveries not new, okay? And the truth of it is, man can't create anything new because man is a mere creature, not the creator. And only God creates new things. All man can do is kind of shove things around that already exist and manipulate them, but he can't make anything new. Henry Morris, a Christian scientist, said this: verse 9 implies another great scientific principle, that of conservation. We're making a conversation. Conservation of mass and energy. Nothing is now being either created or annihilated. Everything is conserved, and there's no new things under the sun. This fact, he said, is the most basic and best provided law of science, finally demonstrated in the 19th century, but implies at many places in the Bible, Genesis 2, 1 through 3, Hebrews 1, 3, etc. Matter may go through change in state or form, and energy may be transformed from one kind to another, but the totality of mass and energy, they remain unchanged, okay? So he says, since everything in the physical world is either matter or energy, nothing is really new. Now, of course, only God can make things out of nothing. There was a time when there wasn't anything but God, and the Bible makes it clear God spoke everything into existence. Remember that in Genesis 1:1? God said, "Let there be light." There was light. Well, God makes new things. God makes new creatures. 2 Corinthians 5:17, therefore, if any man be in Christ, he's a new creature. Old things have passed away, and behold, all things have become new. God alone can enable us to walk in newness of life. Romans 6:4. Therefore, we were buried with him through baptism into death, that just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in newness of life. God alone can give us a new song. Psalms 43, put a new song in my mouth. Praise to our God. Many will see it and fear and will